I'm going to start a new lesson after the first of the year. So these next couple of Sundays, I'm going to just talk to you about some things that's been on my mind and heart, and some of the things that I go through. Because I think it's good to share. Might help somebody along the way. I don't know if people think it or not. I think sometimes people think, well, if you're a preacher, your life is great, everything goes your way. And I just think, man, I think it's just the opposite. It's just sometimes. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I wrote a few notes down here because it's, I know you look out and what your eyes see can be so deceiving. Can be so deceiving. Because, man, I told you guys a long time ago, church is not going to look like what you think it's going to look like. Can you imagine going out to war and one man walks out into the field? That's the way it looked in Israel. I mean, one guy goes out there, a little old shepherd boy named David. He goes out. I mean, it just doesn't look like war. I thought war was, I get this picture in my hand of the blue coats and the red coats, and they go out and cannons fire and you shoot and then I shoot. This doesn't look like war. It looks like one guy going out. And, I'm going to read you some scriptures here in a second, because you don't want to manipulate anybody into praise. And so I'm kind of going over here to Exodus, and I think about these things in my mind. We were talking there the last few weeks about blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God. We're talking about what that pure in heart meant, unmixed. And then you begin to see God everywhere. And I was looking at, like when we go to a ball game, why do we, what happens? Everybody just sitting there, and all of a sudden, boom, somebody hits a long pass, touchdown, and everybody stands up and cheers. Why? Because something just happened. And praise takes place. So, trying to tell somebody who's going through it, well, you got to start praising, it's hard to do. It's hard to do, but the thing about us is, He's already scored. Yes. The game's already won.
Yes. Yes.
And you know what I mean? I mean, so if we can get a hold of that, it's like we're looking at this storm is coming against me, and all this stuff is coming against me. Well, wait just a second here. You see what I mean? Just wait just a second. If you'll abide in me and I in you, wait a minute, we got to get our mind back right. There was a time when, and still happens to me, when my mind gets drawn, it gets pulled over here into this. I mean, does your mind ever do like that? I mean, it's a giant weight, it's a gravity. But, here I go, I get pulled over here into this, but there's something else. There's an anchor that says, boom, that's as far as you go. You know what I mean? Because there's an anchor, and I know how an anchor works. It's got a rope on it, a threefold cord. A threefold cord that can't be broke, and I'm secured. So when I go over here, it's like the bounds are set, and I'm only going so far, and He draws me back. And how does He draw me back? By my loving kindness. You think that was a one-time thing? It's over and over again. By my loving kindness. But I look out, guys, I see things that I never see before, and it causes a great disturbance in me. I don't know if it does you, but I look out, and there's things that disturb me. I heard a guy ask one time, what was the spiritual state of Jamaica? And he said, oh, it's great. Great. This preacher was visiting down there. What's the spirit? Oh, it's great. It's great. Well, Jamaica, that's where Miles Monroe was at. But, he's dead now. So he goes and he asks, well, what's the spirit? Oh, it's great. It's great. He said, everybody in Jamaica has been saved 6 or 7 times each. You see? And this is what happens in the church. It's like, oh God, we gotta. It's like we got salvation as a thing. Salvation is a ticket. It's something that you get. And if it's a thing that I get, do you realize, guys, these are reading glasses that I buy in bulk at Walmart's, 3 packs. Do you realize how many of these I've lost? How many of the lenses fell out? And you know what happens? I throw them away and I get another pair because it's an it. It's a thing, and it's not very precious to me. It just helps me at the moment, and I throw it on. But salvation, guys, is not an it. Salvation is a he. It's a person named Jesus. These I can lose. If salvation is an it, I can lose it. But if it's a him who's got a hold of me, where do these questions come from? These questions come from because religion has snuck in, and the church has got seduced the same way that Eve got seduced. The subtleties that come in. Everything's about sin. We got these sin goggles on. That's a sin, that's a sin, that's a sin. I hear so many people say, well, when you come into the church now, I'm going to tell you what, you better start doing stuff to make God happy. And those things break my heart. I see them and they break my heart. God leapt for joy when He created you. Because the reason He leapt for joy was because He has a person He can give Himself to. That's the overspill of love of who He is. People don't even think about it. They think God is up there. He must be worshipped. Listen, when you get a hold of this, you will worship. You will praise. It's a response. It's not something you got to beat out of somebody. You better get up and start praising God or He'll kill you. It's kind of what I grew up in, I asked a guy the other day, I probably shouldn't say these things, but I said, have you ever prayed without getting on your knees? Or, here's the holy grail of prayer, at the end of your prayer, not said in the name of the Lord. You would feel like you hadn't prayed, but I said, I got a challenge for you. Show me in the scripture one time where Paul the apostle got on his knees and at the end of his prayer said, in Jesus' name. Well, it's not in the Bible. Well, then why do you do it? Well, I think it's, You see, it's a mindset. It's I'm a constant beggar. One of the number one songs several years ago, I'm a man of constant sorrow. And God is somebody to be begged, like He's withholding. You see, this goes all the way back to the garden, to the sin that come back. God is withholding. I should be a God, and if I do this, I'll get it. And God is withholding. He's the great withholder. So we got to beg it out of Him. I read this verse. I knew we finished up our series, and I was debating where to go. So I kind of know where we're going, but then I read this verse, and it just stuck. You ever just read a verse and it just sticks? And there you go. And you think, well, I can't go anywhere else, and this is what we're going to do today. So I read this verse, and I'm going to give you the verse, and I'm going to back up a little bit. Give you the context, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. It's in Exodus 15 and verse 3. The Lord is a man of war. What a verse. The Lord is His name. I read that verse. The Lord is a man. Do you get that? The Lord is a man. But what's He a man of? He's a man of war. Jesus Himself said, I didn't come to bring peace, I come to bring a sword. What are you going to do with that? You see, we get this view of peace means all my situations are fixed. So we've created a heaven where all of that. But He don't give you peace from, get this, He gives you peace in. Now if you can get a hold of that, I give you peace in it. Because I look around, guys, and, you know, you got 17 different situations going on all at one time. And then 3 more gets added on to it. And you think, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, and then you find out other people are going through the same thing. You know, I mean, and everybody, and I say, the Lord is a man of war. What do you mean the Lord is a man of war? Because I got to tell you something here. I should probably save this statement till the end, but I'm just going to throw it out there now. The church is not a hospital for saints. You've heard that term before, ain't you? The church is a hospital for saints. It's not. This is a barracks. You know what a barracks is? A barracks is where you come and rest up and get ready for war. The Lord is a man of war. He told Timothy that thou mightest war a good warfare. Paul was in a war. It was a war. And you realize when you come into the kingdom of his dear son, you just got put in the middle of a battle? See, we don't want that. We don't want that. You know, we don't want that. Let me read. I'm going to start at Exodus 14. You know, this is them coming up out of the Red Sea. Y'all know the story of them coming out of the Red Sea. Man, they've been down there 430 years. They've been slaves 430 years. Slaves. Making bricks. And here recently, making bricks without straw. You know, we done some lessons in Exodus. And now God has brought them out. God has brought them out. Now, it didn't look like he really brought, it looked like they're going to come out good there. The first time, remember, we were going through our Exodus studies, and it looked like, hey, man, they were ready to fight. They were prideful, and God led them over through here, and he brought them in. And it looked like, where are they going? I mean, it looks like a straight shot. God brings them over here, mountains on this side, the Red Sea on this side. God led them there. God led them into a state of that Moses had to go quiet the people and say, stand still and see. Why would he say stand still and see the salvation of the Lord? Because they're over there going, good God, this is going to crush me from behind and going to drown in front of me, and God led me there. How could this be? Every time I get into these situations and I think, you know, all of this, I have to go back to this thing and I think, God, did you lead me here? And it's irrelevant, but he never leave me, never forsake me. He's standing right there, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. They couldn't know that they were brought out on eagle's wings except they see the Egyptian army right behind them, pressing down on them with vengeance in their eyes. And Pharaoh right there leading the charge. And what happens? They didn't pray for this. God's fire came down. The Shekinah glory that was over them, it kind of split and went back here and went down. There was a wall behind them, a fortress behind them, that the enemy could come and look and see them and not approach. Right in the midst of that, what do you have in your hand, Moses? You know? What do you have in your hand? I love, we could go back into this whole situation, but it's like, Moses, enough. What do you got in your hand? You know, Moses is there. Oh, God, you know, what do you got in your hand, Moses? Just quiet the people and just tell the people to go forward. Just tell the people to go forward. Because I tell you to go forward. I have to tell me, go forward. I've not been this way before, Lord. Go forward. I'll be a lamp unto your feet. Go forward. I don't know where I'm going. I've never been this way. Still yet. Go forward. So they go and they all night long. I wonder this long night when the east wind blew, how long that night must have been for these guys. Nighttime, they get up in the morning and look, and the sea's parted. And they began to walk through on dry ground. Do you ever picture this? I rode through the Red Sea at Universal Studios. We took a little bus and we rode down through there. And I didn't know this, but Gilligan's Island is next to the Red Sea. Gilligan thought he was way lost. All he had to do was step right over here across the street, and there was the Red Sea. And he could have got me. We thought he was in the Pacific Ocean because Gilligan's Island was right there and the Red Sea was right there. I thought, wow. But we drove down through there, and the Red Sea's really not that big. I could have swam across it. Wasn't very long. About two carloads getting through there. You just... Can you imagine walking through there and seeing a fish looking at you? Because they did. It was a real thing. They walked through the Red Sea. Didn't even have no mud on their feet. Well, then here comes the Egyptians. Because God took up the protection that was behind them. See, sometimes I thank God, people will see you and they're a Christian and they'll say, man, I can't get to them. And sometimes He pulls the hedge up. And here they come. I'm going to destroy them. I've got you now. I've got you. I've got you now. And they're only going to their own destruction. Because here they come. God's left them. God's left them. God was protecting us from them, but now look, they must have sinned, Patty. They must have did something wrong because this great God has just left them. And we're going to get them. You see, this is the good thing of when I look at this thing, I think, you know what? It doesn't matter what I do. God's not leaving me. It doesn't matter. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because the Lord is there. What about when you sin? Because, see, I was told this week about 14 times, if you sin, you're on your own. God is going to get you. God done got me. God done got me. And you know what? Your sin and iniquity I will remember no more. Sin has been dealt with. Once and for all. The high priest that carried the blood has sat down. That means it's finished. I don't know what you're talking about. Now the only thing is, see that you refuse Him not, because He is it. He's it. The church, or people that are leaving the church, they haven't. They're not leaving the church because they've never met Jesus. They've never met Him. It's no wonder that people get upset and leave. Religion, my God, I found out I couldn't serve that one either. I couldn't meet the standard. I couldn't meet up. Well, because there's a few arrogant people that think they can. Those I call them holy rollers. I got a few other names that say, how much did you read this week? I didn't read any this week. I worked all cotton picking weeks. All I did is work and eat. Didn't read my Bible till last night. I just had to fess up to you. God didn't burn me up. No lightning hit the house. Well, how much time did you spend praying this week? Well, I prayed real hard one time when I was sliding over the hill. I was praying then. Yeah. Going up the hill, sliding over the hill. Yeah. That's praying. But other than that, all I did was work and eat and sleep. Didn't eat much, just worked. So, does that make you not a holy person? You see what I mean? Because we can't. But I hear the other people that come with all this religious stuff, and it drives me up the wall. I read here, He's a God of war. He's a God of war. Let me keep on reading here. They think that the thing behind them is gone. God's protection has left them. So here they come. And it says, thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. Means I used to be in the hand of the Egyptians. Right? I was in their grip. I was there. But now it says that now I'm in somebody else's hand. And somebody else named Jesus says that none can pluck them out. And that you're written and engraven with an iron pen right here into the hand. That's where I'm at. I used to be over here in the Egyptians' hand. But thus the Lord saved Israel. How did Israel get his name? I'm just throwing this out here at you because we're going to look at this one day, but not today. Israel's name was birthed from wrestling. That's where it came from, didn't it? Came right out of a wrestling match. Two heavyweight champions. God Almighty and Jacob. Jacob got put in the figure 4. Dislocated his hip. Real fast, you know. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. Saw them dead bodies washing up. Saw them floating around out there. All the enemies that had oppressed them, saw them out there. Dead. I don't know, do you ever get that view? Do you ever look and see that view? I see the sea and the dead bodies floating on the sea all the time. I see it all around me. And I see that there is a gap between them and me. It's called the hand of the Lord between them and me. I mean, what did Jesus say? In this world you shall have tribulation. But don't fear, right? Why? I've overcome the world. Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. The great work. They saw the great work. And the people feared. They were in awe of the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. Listen, there's a song going to come out of this deliverance. A song of praise is coming out of this deliverance. But the song came out because of the great work and what they seen of the great work. And that's why I tell people, hey, listen, if you haven't seen this thing, that's why Paul's prayer was, people get a little hint of the gospel, oh yeah, that sounds good. But Paul's prayer was, I pray that the eyes of your understanding would be open. If the eyes of your understanding would be open, you would begin to sing and praise and shout and worship to God. Because right now you just think salvation is a ticket and you got saved, and thank God you got saved. You're going to go to heaven one of these days. Oh, great. Gosh. Then, I love them little words, then when, then after all of this, after 430 years, after 430 years, after the 10 plagues, after the prophecies, after the burning bush, after the staff, after the frogs and the flies and the parting of the Red Sea, after all this being led, after the stress of being there by the Red Sea, and after this great deliverance and seeing all my enemies dead, then sang Moses. I believe this song here came from way down deep. You know what I mean? I believe this song, he just, I don't believe you could have closed his mouth. I believe that was one of the times that the rocks was crying out. They couldn't contain it. And he began to sing. And the children of Israel, this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider. The horse and his rider. The strength of the rider is in the horse. And he not only took the rider down, but all his strength to come after me and pursue me and chase me and haunt me down. Because see, as long as I got a horse out there, another rider will get on it, but I'm getting him both ways. I'm going to get the rider and all the strength he possessed to come after me. Horse and the rider. Go. You with me? Thrown them into the sea. The Lord is my strength. The Lord is my strength. The Lord is my song. And he has become my salvation. He is my God. and I will prepare him a habitation, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Do you ever just read these verses? I know to the world, to the darkness, we would be called traitors. Because I don't know, Isaiah, I used to wonder this. I'd say, well, how can I go preach to the people, tell our warfare is accomplished, and then hear Paul talk about war and talk about the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to pulling down of strongholds. How can I go and tell her war is accomplished when I know myself I'm at war on every side, it seems. Enemies all around wanting to destroy me. And guys, this is real. I'm not making this up. This is real. What is the spiritual state of Cedar Bluff? What's the spiritual state of Russell County and Tassau County? You think it's good? Let me just tell you a little something here. There are witches in downtown Richlands. They've set up shop. They're going to start the first pagan church of Richlands. Now, does this mean we need to go down there and knock on the door and throw Bibles at them and all this other stuff? No. I'm just telling you, this is the spiritual state. I mean, because all the religious people go down there and march around them. And call them names and call them all this other stuff. And me, I kind of feel sorry for both sides. Because these guys are praying, but they're praying to gods. Praying to the God of the wind, praying to the rabbit God, and praying to the sun God and the moon God. And I feel like Paul the Apostle saying, I got an unknown God here that I want to tell you about. Obviously, you've never met him. They're asking for prayer and don't know who to pray to. So I feel giant compassion coming out. So what's the state of Cedar Bluff and Richlands? It's the state of Phariseeism reigns. And we, us few, stand in the midst of that. And they would tear us down because the gospel we preach is offensive to Phariseeism. It's offensive to the would-be church. That God is love, but you see, it's a war against that. It's a war about who is God. Who is he? We say, God is the God of judgment. Is he the God of judgment? What do we mean by that? These are things that we'll follow through more and more, but look, what does it mean that he's a God of judgment? What is judgment? In our mind, judgment is, you stole something from me, you say you stole my watch. Judgment is, I put you in jail for 10 years. Right? That's the American side of judgment. So this is what we say, and then what do? We create God with our own mind, with our own imagination, and I think I would put you in jail for 10 years. So, therefore, God, who is much stronger than me, would put you in jail for eternity because you stole a man's watch. Thou shalt not steal, brother. Right? Do you know what to the Hebrew, what judgment meant? Just basic. Judgment meant set things right. Did you get that? For judgment I am come. It's what Jesus said. For judgment I am come into the world. I am come, Kathy, to set things right. Hallelujah. I'm coming because you've been in. There's been something to happen here. You got into the hands of darkness. You fell into the trap of Satan. And that's where you were, in the kingdom of darkness. You were blind, leaders of the blind. You had all fell into the ditch. You had all thought you were gods. And you were, in a sense, not in a sense, in actuality, you were at war with God. You was at war with God because why? You thought you were God. So you wanted to kill him and take his place. That came to pass in the cross because when Emmanuel, Jesus Christ, Prince of Peace, showed up, God in the flesh, what did we do? We'll not have this God, this man to rule over us. Let's kill him and we'll take his place. That's what we did. But he says, for judgment I am come into the world. I'm coming to the world to set things right. I'm coming to the world that you might have life, because it's wrong for you to not have it, because I love you and I come to give myself to you. I come to set things right. I come to bring righteousness. What is righteousness? Walking step by step in total sync, walking as one with God. I come in judgment and righteousness to bring about these things. And you know what, guys? He accomplished that very thing. Yes. And he went to war to do it. When I was looking up the words here, and I thought, war, what does it mean? So I'm looking in my Hebrew thing there, and it says war in the sense of fighting a battle. And then it says this little word, and I was just captivated. It says the engagement. You know, when you go out, and you may be at war, but sometimes there's not an engagement. But then all of a sudden the enemy appears. And then there's an engagement. There's some actual exchange of things going on here. So, and I think, man, this war took place down there when that angel showed up to Mary. And said, man, you are going to have a son. If you agree to this, Mary, you are going to have a son. His name will be Jesus. When Simeon circumcised him, remember, he come to Mary and said, he's going to be also for the piercing of your own soul. Jesus said, I come to bring a sword. This thing is going to cut you to the quick. Mary, do you agree? Do you agree with this, Mary? There's going to be an engagement. God is going to take on human flesh and come down here and go to battle. One against it all. Because there was none that went with him. He was all alone. We couldn't help him because every one of us were in the grips of darkness. Peter, that's where he was. Paul, all of them, everybody that was born at that time was in the grips. All of us in the loins of our forefathers was there, bound up in darkness. That's where we were. So when this man come to battle, just like David going out against Goliath, he went out alone. There was nobody else to go to war. And when I was reading the verses, I was looking through there, and when I was reading about David, guess what David's description was? Because here they were, Saul was upset, and because the spirit that was on Saul had left and went over on David. David had been anointed, and now an evil spirit had come upon Saul, and the people, the servants in the castle said, man, Saul has lost his mind. He's lost his mind. What we need to do is we need to find somebody that's cunning, that can play on the harp, and he'll soothe Saul. And one of them spoke up and says, hey, I know this one guy, he's cunning, he's prudent, he's a valiant man, he's a man of war. Go get him. David, a man of war. And he brought David into the castle, and as David would play, Saul would be soothed, and when David was stopped, he would be angry. Y'all know the story. And you know, if you go on and read the scriptures, it says that there was war between the house of Saul. Saul was Israel. Saul was the religious. Saul was the Pharisees. And there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David waxed stronger and stronger. So I could bring it on up and say in Israel again, there was war again between Jeroboam and Rehoboam. And there was war in there. I mean, do you realize that we are standing here and the battlefront is all around us? God is a man of war. Now, the one thing about the war was, and he said this, and this is where most Christians don't want to come to, they had to be 20 years old and older. I thought, why is that? Because we got a church full of a bunch of babes. You can't send babies out to war. They got to have some maturity. And Paul said, look, it looks like we're losing on this front, but till we all come to the maturity. Why? Till we come into the maturity so that we can go out to battle. Now what are we battling against? Principalities. We're not battling against those people up there. We don't battle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. High things that exalt themselves against the knowledge of God. We're battling Pharisees. We're battling religion, bitterness, hopelessness, despair, drug addiction, you name it. We're battling, and suicide. We're battling. All of those things are all around us. They are. I look around, I start getting texts like, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. I'm thinking, we've been 10 Wednesdays studying on healing. What's going on, Lord? It's a dadgum battle. How do you feel about it? Do you like getting up in the morning having a cold and a runny nose? No, it's a war that comes into you and says, you're going to be down and out. And I'm going to step up and say, no, Christ lives in me. There's a boldness. I wondered, Paul said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This had to come out of the guts of prison and the depths of despair that he said that down when he's crushed in every town he would go through. The Judaizers would be in front of him telling him Paul is a liar. Don't believe Paul. Paul preaching this gospel. You know what kind of person he is? And Paul would go in and the town's heart would melt and they would believe the gospel. And as soon as Paul would leave, the Judaizers would swing back around and destroy everything. And it ticked Paul off. Everything I set up, everything I do, these people are coming to destroy it. Now he's thrown in prison and there's none left. He could just tell John Mark, I believe, go get my coat. I didn't even get to bring my parchments with me. Go bring the scrolls that I wrote back down there. Bring my coat. I'm cold. Do you see? And Paul says, I fought a good fight. I fought a good fight. Do you ever think about that when you get up in the morning? Because see, in my mind, I guess this I don't know what kind of thinking it is, but when I get beat down, I get mad. I really do, guys. I really do. I say, wait just a cotton picking minute. Christ is in me. I'm reading these verses and I say, Lord, will you be my strength? Throw that prayer out the window. Do not pray, Lord, will you be my strength? Because that's looking in the future. The Lord is my strength.
Yes, amen.
He's mine right now. He's the God of now. Now faith is. And I say, wait a minute, He is my strength. The Lord's not going to be my refuge. No, He is my refuge. He is my strong tower. He is the anchor of my soul. Right now, in the middle of this whole thing. I may be going through it, but I ain't. Listen, you remember... I'm just going to throw this out there at you. Everything that attacks us, we give it a name. Don't give it a name. What's the matter with you? I got a cold. Don't name it. Don't call it. Because now you know it's got to run its course. Right? You know the damage it's going to cause. I got the flu, right? I got the flu. I just named it and I set it on its path. And I know what's going to happen. I ain't naming this thing. You with me? You hearing me? Something's attacking me. Remember, I told you we got to look at these things as enemies because they are enemies. God didn't send you a cold. He didn't send you a flu or sinus infection. God didn't send the kidney stones to you. Where did they come from? They come from the enemy. And I ain't going to name it because I got somebody else that's named me and I'm his. Just throwing that out there to you a little bit. I ain't even got where I wanted to go. I'm going to finish up here in just a second. We'll tell Jeff to come on. Jeff, come on. Let me read you a couple verses here. Let me go to Daniel. Man, I wish we had time to stay in these. Maybe we'll go back and look at them again. Daniel chapter 7. A lot of people in the church, they know about the cross, right? They know about Jesus' death. That gets you to Good Friday, right? They'll preach a little bit on the resurrection. That gets you to Sunday. But what about the ascension? You don't hear much about the ascension. That's just one of them things out there, But let me tell you something. Daniel right here in chapter 7 is getting a view of the coming of the Lord. Golly, I just throw this out there at you, and you didn't hear what I'm telling you. Because heaven was waiting on the coming of the Lord. Heaven was waiting to receive this man whose right it is. Heaven was waiting on one man to get this thing done. One, and this guy did it. And you know, Daniel right here in Daniel 7, he has these visions about these beasts with these horns, and they raise up, and horns and wings, and there's battles, and there's fighting, and kingdoms rising and falling, and all these war is taking place all over the globe. It's going on everywhere. And then in the middle of that, Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, I beheld till the thrones were cast down. All the thrones, all the powers, all the kingdoms of the earth that Satan had offered Jesus up and said, if you'll bow down and worship me, I'll give you all the kingdoms. But Daniel, he sees something here. I see all the kingdoms were cast down. And the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, his wheels as burning fire. My God, this sounds like this is in the book of Revelation, doesn't it? Because I believe John saw this very guy, didn't he? That people think is some future. John saw the very one whose eyes were a flame of fire, white and John fell down at his feet. And I said, what happened to John when you prayed? John fell down at his feet. I said, what happened? Jesus put his right hand on him and raised him up.
Yes.
That's what happened to him. Now listen to this. And fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set. The judgment was set. I wonder what that means. The judgment was set. We'll get back to that. And the books were open. Man, this sounds like the book of Revelation. I don't know, white throne judgment, everybody's going to be. But listen to this. And I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, and I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away. I destroyed him that had the power of death, that is, the devil, through death. They had their dominion taken away, their authority stripped. Do you realize that? I don't know if you realize this, but a cold still has power, but it has no authority. Did you hear what I just told you? A flu has power. It can wipe you out, put you in the bed, but it has no authority. The devil has power, but he has no authority. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away. Yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. And I saw in the night visions, here it is, this is the ascension. And behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. Came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion. Do you see what happened? He was given dominion. He's got all power, dominion, and he was given glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, language should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Paul told us you've been translated out of the kingdom of his dear Son into the kingdom of this one who sits with the Ancient of Days. This very thing, you've been translated into that very kingdom. It's okay for you now to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. You can pray that prayer. That will be done in heaven as it is in earth. I can now go to war, Patty. Before, I just went into expectation. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I can now go to war. Because now I've got the weapons of our warfare, not carnal. If I'm going to war, I'm going to need some weapons, and I got a couple of weapons here. One's called faith, and the other's called prayer. Oh yeah, prayer. We can do some mighty damage to this place with prayer. We begin to understand. He said, ask whatsoever you will in my name. Ask whatsoever you will. What do you think he's talking about? He's talking about prayer. Let me give you another verse here. Verse 18. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. I hear the Lord saying, the kingdom of heaven does what? Suffereth violence, but the violent take it by force. I've told you guys this, and I wonder, the Lord has put us here, just a few of us gathered here, but look, we don't need many. One to put 1,000 to flight, 10,000. That's all we need is a few. That's all we need is just a handful of people here. Because He is the power, and it's His kingdom, and the kingdom suffereth violence, but the violent take it by force. Those who are willing to engage. Does it do something to you guys? It does me, because I get sick and tired of it. And I'm not talking about going out here bludgeoning people with the Bible and verses and scriptures. But I'm talking about, there's a movie out here. If you guys haven't seen it, go home tonight and watch it. It's called War Room. Go watch it. Go watch the War Room. You want to go to battle? Get your closet. Because it's the real deal. Get your closet and let's go to battle. And I wonder with me, who's going to go to battle? Who's going to go to war? Because I'm sick and tired of it. And He's given it to us in our hands. What are we going to hand off to our kids? What are we going to hand off to our grandkids? Listen, let me tell you something. I've been around kids a long time. Raised a bunch of them. Do you think this is just some fool thing? What's a kid's first word? Every time. Dad. Abba. What's a kid's first word? Abba, Father. There's a cry from the depths of our soul for a Father. There's a cry in every kid that is ever born. And He has came here. And He has joined Himself to us that we could be where He is in the heart of the Father. And He cries in our heart. Dee sent me a little thing yesterday where Nova, she named them grandkids Nova and Selah. Didn't that sound? And I thought, wow, that's a cool name, Selah. And the first words that baby's laying there on the bed, 6 months old, Dad, 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 Dad. I said, see, that baby's got a cry in his heart for a father. Yeah. A father that loves them. And we got put into the lie, and we thought God was mean and didn't love us and withheld from us. But Jesus come as the truth. And when he said He's satisfied because He was a perfect revelation of who God is. He is love. And He stands there. The wrath of God stood up in resurrection against the lie. He's alive and He loves you and He's in pursuit of you and He's coming after you and He will never ever stop. Amen. And we stand against that lie that says He's judgment and He's punishment and He's all of those things that we've made Him out to be. Let me finish up right here. I want to go here to Revelation. Revelation. You know where I'm going. Revelation chapter 19. And then I'm going to go back to Psalm chapter 2. Revelation 19. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. He that sat upon him was called Faithful, True, and in righteousness He doth judge. And what? Make war. That's what we are. We're at war against who they think God is, who they think our Father is. We're at war against the darkness because He is the light, and the light is in you. So your very being, you're set in the battle. His eyes were as a flame of fire. We just read that in Daniel. His eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. Why was there many crowns? Because all the dominions was gone, and now he has conquered, and now every one of those crowns is on him. Just like when he came and got me, I thought I was a king. But when you see the king, what happened? You take that crown off and cast that crown at his feet, and now he is my king. He is my refuge, and he is my Lord. You can't say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Ghost. And when I say Jesus is Lord by the Holy Ghost, that means I'm one with him. I'm not him. I'm not the Father, but I'm one with him. If you get a hold of that. People say that's too much. I told you the gospel's offensive. You, right now, have been seated in the heavenly places. High above, seated with him, all dominion given to you, all authority given to you. I don't know if we get it or not. But he doeth judge and make war. He had a name written that no man knew but he himself. We got to talk about that knowing a little bit. We'll go back. That's going to come right out of Matthew 11. His eyes were a flame of fire. We read that. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. And his name is called the Word of God, a vesture dipped in blood. I wonder what it was. A vesture dipped in blood. I believe that was this body that he had. Was completely covered and beat to a pulp. Covered in blood. That's how he come to make war. He came to make war at a sacrifice. He came to make war to give himself.
Yes, yes.
That's who he, and when he came here, do you realize God only looks at this thing as one man? Do you realize when he came and made war with little Jim Moore, he took little Jim Moore to the cross, and when he was crucified on the cross, it was little Jimmy Moore on the cross.
Yes.
Gather all the nations. You know, I could go over there in Joel and read gather all the nations in that day of war. The sun will be darkened. The moon will give light. It'll be turned to blood. The stars will be turned out. Gather the heathen. Gather as he's making war against all nations. Because when he did that, he became me. He became Oakley. He became Patty. He that knew no sin became sin. He became me. And nailed that one to the cross because there was no fixing that one. There was no counseling out of that one. He nailed it to the cross. When I was baptized into that death. And when he raised up, guess what I did? I raised up with him to walk in a brand new life. A life that had never before been seen. A life that had God's life infused in me. There had never been a little Jimmy Moore filled with the Holy Ghost before. Never. And the armies which were in heaven. Where are you? Seated in heavenly places. The army of God. Go look at Song of Solomon, a beautiful woman. He called her armies Mahanaim, armies of God. I saw the armies of God. Gideon, you valiant man of God. What do you mean when I look at you, Gideon? I see the armies of God. Look at David, he's a man of war. I see the armies of God, and David lived in a stinking cave. But all of those that were distressed and downtrodden came to him. Discontented came to the man of war, the man who's going to engage and do something about it. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen and white and clean, and out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword. With it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. He shall rule the nations with a rod of iron. Now, I'm just going to quickly go here, and then I'll be done, I promise you. He's going to rule the nations with a rod of iron. See, in our minds, what do we think this rod of iron is? Well, it's the words that's coming out of his mouth. But I mean, how is there a rod of iron for you and me? Because he says he's going to rule the nations. You and me are coming out, following him on his white horse, and we're on our horses, and we're following him, going to war, and we're going to rule the nations with a rod of iron. Now, what is this rod of iron? Because we can begin to understand that. If we flip right back over to Revelation 2 and verse 7, it says again, He shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter, they shall be broken to shivers. What is this rod of iron? I'm going to tell you right here. Psalm chapter 2. Why do the heathen rage? The people imagine a vain thing. Why? The kings of the earth set themselves. The rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed. Another war, right? War. You've been brought right in the middle of this. The victory's already gone, but you've been brought right into the middle of this. Why do they imagine a vain thing? Why do the kings of this world set themselves array against this king and against his anointed? Let us break their bands asunder. David is, when he's writing the psalm, he's making a declaration here. Let us break their bands. We read in Revelation 2, break them like a pottery. Boom, you ever drop a glass? Boom, it's broken to 1,000 pieces. There's no gathering it back up. It's gone. Let us break their bands and cast away their cords from us, their cords that bind us and hold us and keep us bound up. Prison. I think about the man in the tombs, that they bound him and bound him and bound him, and he dwelt among the tombs. And then it says, He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. At one time, there was just 3 of them in the heaven, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. But now there's a host, 10,000 times 10,000. And that's you and me, and that's every born-again saint that's ever been. Sitting in the heavens, and now we laugh with Him. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall He speak unto them in His wrath. You know what He's saying now? I'm going to speak to them in the risen Jesus, because the wrath of God is Jesus raised from the dead. To stand up against all the hate and all the lies that was ever told. Jesus, that's the wrath of God, is the resurrection. And vex them in sore displeasure. We thought we got rid of Him. We thought we got rid of God. We thought we killed Him. We hung Him on the cross. We pierced His side. We buried. We thought we got rid of Him. And yet He rose up from the dead. He's still here. And He didn't just rise from the dead. He ascended far above all principalities and powers in heaven, and to sit down, and He carried up people with Him. And this is God saying through David, Yet have I set my king. I've set my king upon my holy hill. The holy hill of Zion. I believe Paul said, Good Lord Almighty, you have come to Mount Zion. Yeah. I have set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. And you, brothers and sisters, have come to the place of all power and all dominion, and Him who is love. And He says this, I will declare the decree. It's God. I will declare this decree. The Lord has said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. You see, I know this is about Jesus, but guess you and Jesus are one. In that day, I'm in the Father, you in me, and I'm in you. We become one. We're His body. There's not, oh, well, this is all about Jesus. If it's about Jesus, it's about you, because you're His very body. He's the head of His body. This is the decree. Today have I begotten thee. You with me? And then He says this. Here's the decree. Since you're my son, ask of me. Ask, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance. You want this? You want this place? Ask. That's what He said, ask. Remember He said, and they'll rule all nations with a rod of iron. The rod of iron is your prayer. The rod of iron is your prayer. What did He call this house? A house of praise? A house of worship? A house of healing. A house of prayer. All the kingdom. Ask of me, and I'll give you the heathen for an inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. And thou shalt break them with the rod of iron. The rod of whatsoever you will, whatsoever you wish, whatsoever is your desire, and ask of me, and I will give it to thee. What is your desire? You want to change things? You want things to be different? You want your church to grow? You want to take over this place? Prayer. There it is, prayer. Prayer that comes out from here. Prayer that we go to our war room and begin to pray. I don't need a prayer list. You don't need to send me a prayer list. You don't have to. If you want to, that's fine. You go in your room and you begin to pray, and I guarantee you the Lord will lay prayer on you that you ain't got enough time to get it out. He'll bring people before your face, and there it is. And you begin to pray, and things will begin to change. I know this. He brings them right there, and you begin to pray, and there it is. So I'm telling you, just begin to pray. This doesn't have to be a group thing. You go, and you go in your war room and begin to pray, because this is a war. We can be here, we can be idle, we can be like every other church, and we can come and do our thing and look like all the other churches, or we can go to battle. And sometimes in battle, Kathy, things don't look pretty, and things get bloody, and people get wounded, but it's okay. We're going to war because there is a cause. And remember David says, is there a cause? Oh yeah, there's a cause. We got people incarcerated all over, drug addicts everywhere, people dying left and right, people killed by drunk drivers. We got it going on, and eventually it'll come in your own house if it ain't there already. It'll come in your own house. Then what are you going to do? There's a war going on between light and darkness. We're right in the battle. And He's given us the power and authority through our prayer. Let's go to war. Let's go to war. How good are you? Come on. God.